Get your free copy of the complete tutorial at www.teachucomp.com/free.
There are many layer types in Photoshop Elements you can create. An image layer, often simply called a layer, is a basic type of raster layer. This means you can use your pixel editing tools, like the painting tools, to edit its content. To create a new blank layer in Photoshop Elements, select the layer above which to add a layer in the Layers panel. Then click the Create a New Layer button at the top of the Layers panel. The new layer is then added above the current layer in the Layers panel. If you open a photographic file like a JPEG in Photoshop Elements, the image content appears within a layer of this type, called the background layer, which has its own unique layer properties. Fill layers and adjustment layers in Photoshop Elements are layers that apply fills or adjustments to the content of underlying layers. When you create a fill layer or adjustment layer, the fill or adjustment content appears as a thumbnail at the left side of the layer in the Layers panel. Its linked layer mask appears to the right of that after the link icon. The layer mask determines where the adjustment or fill is applied. To create a fill layer or adjustment layer in Photoshop Elements, click the Create New Fill or Adjustment Layer button at the top of the Layers panel. Then choose the fill or adjustment to apply from the menu that appears. Then set the fill or adjustment properties in the dialog or panel that then opens. Separately, to add a layer mask to a selected layer in Photoshop Elements, click the Add Layer Mask button at the top of the Layers panel. If you select a blank layer in Photoshop Elements, and then create a fill layer, which are the solid color, gradient, and pattern choices in the menu, then the fill effect is applied to the selected layer, and a layer mask is also applied to that layer. In contrast to this, Photoshop Elements always creates adjustment layers, which are all the other choices in the drop-down menu, as new layers above the layer selected in the Layers panel. Shape layers in Photoshop Elements are layers where you have created a vector-based shape. To create a shape layer in Photoshop Elements, select any of the shape tools, which we will discuss later, in the toolbox. Then either select a blank layer in the Layers panel to convert into a shape layer, or select a layer with content above which to add a new shape layer in the Layers panel. Then click and drag within the selected layer to draw a shape. If you have a blank image layer selected, the layer is then converted into a shape layer and the shape is added to it. If not, a new shape layer is instead created above the selected layer and the shape is added to it. Type layers in Photoshop Elements are layers in which you create vector-based text. To create a type layer in Photoshop Elements, select any type tool except the horizontal type mask tool or vertical type mask tool in the toolbox. Then either select a blank layer in the Layers panel to convert into a type layer, or select a layer with content above which to add the type layer in the Layers panel. Then create the text using your selected tool, and click the Commit button to finish. If you selected a blank image layer, the layer is then converted into a type layer and the type is added to it. If not, a new type layer is instead created above the selected layer and the type is added to it. Smart object layers in Photoshop Elements are layers to which you add external file content as an embedded vector object. Smart objects let you perform vector-based edits to the file content, like transforms, without changing the raster content of the embedded object. However, you cannot perform editing with your pixel-based editing tools directly on a smart object layer without first rasterizing or simplifying it. You create smart object layers in Photoshop Elements when you add content to a selected layer in the Layers panel by using the File, Place command as discussed in an earlier lesson. Unlike Photoshop, you cannot directly edit smart object layer content in Photoshop Elements. To edit the content of a smart object layer in Photoshop Elements, you must first simplify or rasterize it. To rasterize a smart object layer in Photoshop Elements, which converts it into a raster image layer, right-click the smart object layer's name in the Layers panel. Then select the Simplify Layer command in the pop-up contextual menu.
Like what you see? Pick up your free copy of the complete tutorial at www.teachucomp.com/free.